Yo, what is up everyone? This is OJ over here from PlayerEssence and welcome to another PE discussion video that I have here for you guys. So this one is actually more of a response video, a respectful response video to my good friend Mizzah Tee, who recently made a video talking about Nintendo's controller innovations leading all the way from the NES all the way to the Wii U and why it's good for gamers and why that people shouldn't be asking for a normal controller or Nintendo to make a normal controller standard. And since I'm one of those people who are definitely asking for Nintendo to make a normal controller standard and any type of different or weird, innovative type of controller sold separately, I felt the need to give a voice to the people who are asking for that because I am a core Nintendo fan. I absolutely love Nintendo, but I do feel that the risk versus reward has become very bad, especially with the Wii U. The risk of making that was not worth the reward that they got, which was basically the worst selling home console of all time, in addition to other things that they've done. Now, here's the thing. With that video, I do want to say this. Please go watch that video either shortly after this one or at some point. Please do not watch Mizzah Tee's video on the matter because I actually agree with everything he says as far as the controller innovations and what Nintendo has done up until the Wii. That's where I think that there's a little bit of like missing information and that there's some holes to where it doesn't necessarily make sense or it's cohesive in my opinion, just because there's a lot of different things that Nintendo did in the past that they didn't do with the Wii and the Wii U when it comes to controller innovation and when it comes to the actual console. And I think it's cool if we fill in some context to some of that. So in the past, Nintendo would usually innovate with the controller, but not skimp out on the actual power of the system. That has not been the case with the Wii and the Wii U. Nintendo's controllers in the past were also the optimal way to play the game for mostly every single game. With the Wii and the Wii U, I'm not sure if that is the case, and a lot of gamers don't feel that's the case either. Nintendo really started forcing people to play with the control schemes that many Nintendo fans and gamers alike disagreed with, which was optimal. In the past, people all felt that the Super Nintendo was the optimal way to play pretty much every single game released. Same goes with the NES controller. Same goes with the Nintendo 64 controller, the GameCube controller. Most people felt that those were all the optimal ways to play and they didn't feel the need like there needs to be some type of different controller or something like that. With the Wii U and the Wii, that is definitely not the case. Some examples with the Wii: Nintendo forcing motion controls into a game that does not need them. Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. That game has you waggling a Wii remote to do rolls and to blow like leaves and to do stupid things like that. You don't necessarily need motion controls in order to play this game. This game can be played just fine with a classic controller and just be just as good. And that's what I'm talking about, is the force of the Wii to make you use controls that are not optimal. It is not optimal in a 2D platformer to shake a controller to do a roll or to jump. The best way to play it is like it was in the NES or the Super Nintendo, just pressing buttons. That's the quickest and best way to play Donkey Kong Country Returns, yet Nintendo forces you to play with these motion controls, which can be seen as a gimmick. You also have to look at games like Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. That game is really good with the motion controls. I actually like the motion controls, or IR aiming, whatever you want to call it, in the game. However, you have a lot of fans who played Metroid Prime on the GameCube and felt that they rather play the game that way, but Nintendo didn't even give those people an option, and that's where you're going to lose fans. That's where this whole controller innovation thing hits a murky spot, because no matter what you can say, it's our opinion that the most optimal way to play Metroid Prime Corruption is with the Wii remote. You know, that's our opinion, but there are a lot of people who feel that that's not the most optimal way to play the game, and they rather play the game just using a lock-on like Metroid Prime on the GameCube. So that's another thing to just think about. Even if you look at the Metroid Prime trilogy, where they brought back Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Prime 2 onto the Wii, Nintendo stripped out the standard controls in that game, which also pissed off a lot of people, that the fact that they couldn't play a game that was made with standard controls anymore on the Wii if they wanted to get all three of them in one package. These are the type of things that can lose you fans. These are the type of things that people don't like when you're removing options from a game for the sake of saying this is better because we say so. In my opinion, when it comes to gaming, when it comes to core gaming, you always want to give people options, especially if you have two controllers that are supported on the system. It's not like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck was the only controller supported. They did make a classic controller for a reason, so people can play classic style games on them, yet they don't give people that option. That's a problem. Another issue with Nintendo's controller innovations in the past decade with the Wii and the Wii U is that Nintendo has spent ridiculous amounts of time on these controllers while somewhat ignoring the actual console. The Wii was severely underpowered, we all know this. It was missing features and had massive space issues until the patch came out to let you use the SD card slot, which was on there from the very beginning. While the Wii U system was stronger, it didn't take a big enough leap over the PS3 and Xbox 360, especially considering all that money Nintendo made with the Wii. Where did that go to? Why did they not invest into actually making the best system and controller that they could have made? For most people, this was not good, especially coming out 6 to 7 years after the competition, yet the Wii U barely outperformed those systems. According to a Did You Know Gaming on the Nintendo Wii U, Nintendo spent nearly 2 years on the Wii U gamepad, with top executives not even studying the competition's consoles in order to make a better console themselves. As many of you guys know, the Wii U was rushed out a little early, with online features being patched in at launch. Nintendo sloppily constructed each app on the Wii U instead of making everyone in a cohesive unit. That's why the Wii U's online features are either missing or just awkward to use. The system itself is also slow and needs the Wii U gamepad just to go to simple menu settings, despite the Wii U Pro Controller being a supported controller from day one. They couldn't take the time to just program in being able to go into the settings menu and use the settings with the Wii U Pro Controller. It seems to me like a lot of this stuff was put on the back burner in order to focus on the gamepad or the controller. And many of the best games on the Wii U necessarily don't need the Wii U gamepad or don't use them in ways where people feel that, oh my gosh, this is like a must-have way. For example, Mario Kart, Bayonetta 2, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Hyrule Warriors. The list goes on and on, where standard controllers with better battery life is maybe a better option than a bigger, bulkier Wii U gamepad. And another thing about Nintendo's controller innovation with the Wii U, usually the controller innovation comes intrinsically, so it comes from within. Nintendo thinks of that idea, but the Wii U gamepad was definitely not that. It was an attempt to catch on to the tablet craze from the late 2000s and early 2010s. It wasn't made in order for Nintendo to make a bunch of innovative, great games with it. Here is what Shigeru Miyamoto had to say on the failure of the Wii U system. Quotations, "I feel people really never understood the concept behind Wii U and what we were trying to do," he says. "I think the assumption is we were trying to create a game machine and a tablet, and really what we were trying to do was create a game system that gave you tablet-like functionality for controlling that system and give you two screens that would allow different people in the living room to play in different ways. Unfortunately, because tablets at the time were adding more and more functionality and becoming more and more prominent, this system and this approach didn't mesh well with the period it was released in." So that basically kind of admits that, yeah, they were just trying to have a tablet-like device, like he says, tablet-like functions in the living room where people can also play. I mean, that idea, the whole concept of the Wii U, was just borrowed from tablets and how people in living rooms played with their kids with tablets and things like that. So it wasn't even really a unique idea to begin with. So that's also another issue that I have. It seems like Nintendo with the Wii U, as far as their innovation with that controller, was just a borrowed idea to try to capitalize on the tablet craze. And what I meant by saying Nintendo necessarily didn't make software that complements this controller as far as their controller innovations go, the Wii U gamepad is best suited for MMOs, strategy RPGs, large-scale games. These are the type of games that would fit best with the Wii U gamepad. Nintendo has barely released any of those type of games. They really haven't released any strategy RPGs on the Wii U as far as brand new massive games for the system. There really isn't any MMOs that Nintendo has released. They've barely done anything in those categories. There's really just Lego City and Xenoblade Chronicles X, and then we also have Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem or Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming out soon, but that isn't much. And a lot of those games came after. Those games should have been really early in the system. There should have been tons of those type of games, because with that type of controller, those are the type of games that you need. not what they released. So in my opinion, they weren't ever trying to make games or software for this controller. They just released this controller innovation just for the heck of it to try to capitalize on the craze. That's backwards in my opinion. Whereas Nintendo in the past used to make certain innovations in controllers to take full advantage of nearly every single game that they released, like Mario 64, like GoldenEye, like Perfect Dark, like all of the games on the N64, the 3D platformers where you can move around freely, you can push and nod just to go in a full sprint or a walk. That's what that controller was designed for. The Wii U gamepad wasn't core designed for Nintendo's games and their philosophy. In my opinion, it just wasn't. It was the innovation added just for the sake of it, which can be put into gimmick territory. Another issue with Nintendo's recent controller innovations with the gamepad is that it really jacked up the price of the system by $100. In the past, Nintendo's controllers didn't jack up the price of the system by $100. I mean, this is not necessarily needed for only just a few games that are going to use it. And if you think about it, gamers always want more options, especially in today's age. They want more options. They don't want to be forced into purchasing something that they don't need, especially if they feel that the playstyle doesn't suit what they want, or if they want something that lasts as far as the battery life. They want something that lasts a little bit longer wirelessly, things like that. Nintendo themselves admitted that there isn't enough games that clearly use the gamepad. So if that was the case, why was the gamepad even made in the first place? Another major issue gamers have with Nintendo's controller innovations on Wii and Wii U is the rise of the minigame collections that these controllers brought about. Before the Wii, Nintendo didn't make so many minigame collections. They had more standardized controllers, so the games suited that. But with the Wii and the Wii U, it seems like the minigame infestation has come, and gamers do not like that. It seems like Nintendo has focused a lot more time and money in the Wii/Wii U generations on forcing minigame collections down our throats. In the first year of the Wii U, Nintendo released 5 minigame collections. I thought this system was supposed to be for the hardcore gamer. Why are you releasing so many minigame collections? And all of those minigame collections attempted to tout how you can use the gamepad in unique ways. I doubt Nintendo would have released all these stupid minigame collections if the Wii U somehow used a normal or standard controller. You probably would have got a lot more core games like the GameCube got with its controller. As a core gamer, I don't want new controllers being pushed for the sake of minigame collections. To wrap this one up, I don't think gamers would have so many issues with Nintendo if they kept up with the times and made a competent system that was powerful, had all the features, in addition to the new controllers with options to play classically. The main issue with today's Nintendo over the past Nintendo is that the innovation they are making with their controllers are no longer the optimal way to play for everyone. And Nintendo is ignoring other aspects of console development in order to focus on the controller. And gamers are getting fed up with it and just want Nintendo to focus on making the best system they can make with the best games they can make. There's a reason why Nintendo fans and gamers have been leaving Nintendo systems in droves. Nintendo systems are just not selling as much as they used to. And I think this Force controller and these innovations that a lot of people don't feel is optimal way to play is causing that. The results are the Wii U, really unique, different type of controller, 13 million units sold worldwide. So something has to give at this point. Alright guys, that basically wraps it up for this video here. Make sure you hit that like button if you did like it. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And also subscribe to PlayerEssence for more news, reviews, trailers, tips and tricks, and everything on Nintendo and gaming. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.